this video, I'm talking about 9 Asperger's famous people that you probably didn't even know were on the autism spectrum. All that and more is coming up. Hey guys, welcome back to the Aspie World. My name is Dan. I have autism, ADHD, OCD and dyslexia, and I make weekly videos on all types of content like this. So if you're new around here and you'd like to learn more and really hit that subscribe button by clicking the notification bell to be part of that awesome Tau fam. And if you're watching over on Facebook, be sure to give this page a like and a follow so you don't miss a video and you're part of the squad around here. Okay guys, I'm talking about 9, oh yes, 9 super interesting famous people you probably didn't even know were on the autism spectrum. Now I do have a disclaimer. Not every single one of these has a diagnosis, but some of them do, and some of them who don't have the diagnosis have had the kind of like a general consensus that they are on the spectrum due to public and professional analogies and stuff like that from just like researchers and stuff like that. But it's super interesting. Buckle up. If you'd like to get me on Twitter and Instagram, please make sure you follow the links in the description below and on the screen here, and check me out on TikTok because I also do videos on there too. So I always find this really fascinating to find out like who in like the public eye have autism, right? So let me know in the description below if you can think of anybody who I haven't mentioned here who has an autism spectrum condition and are famous. Put it in a comment down below. I read and respond to every single comment, so it's never wasted. Let's open dialogue and have a conversation. You're awesome. Okay, let's get into the list. Okay, so number 1 is the late great Robin Williams. Now Robin Williams is an actor. He's been in amazing films like Jumanji and like Mrs. Doubtfire, and he's just done a whole host of films. A fantastic actor, but terribly troubled with other mental health conditions that came comorbidly. Now a lot of people who know of him do say that his condition of who he was kind of like creative but introverted and very much in line with like Asperger's syndrome, like the autism spectrum disorder type of character, which would explain why he had comorbid conditions like depression and anxiety, because it kind of came hand in hand with his condition. And sadly we did lose Robin Williams to suicide, and yeah, well, we salute you, Captain, my captain. And for anybody who doesn't know, that was from the Dead Poet Society, which I've never seen, but I want to see, but my dad told me about it and he cried, so I'm scared to watch it in case it makes me emotionally vulnerable, but I will definitely check it out. If you've watched that, give this video a thumbs up, because I've never seen Dead Poet Society. Okay, number 2, this is kind of like a bit of a controversial one, but it's Vladimir Putin. Now Vladimir Putin is the almighty leader of the communist regime of Russia. Now Russia is a country on the Eurasian continent. It's half in Asia and half in Europe, so I don't know if Eurasia isn't a continent, but it's what they call that, the mixture between the two continents. And Vladimir Putin is a very interesting guy, very introverted, very clever guy. And again, it's been rumored that he himself displays a lot of traits from the autism spectrum due to his like introversy, his obsession with things, his monotonal, no facial expressions kind of look. He never like laughs and smiles or like feels really upset. He's kind of like just one look the whole time. He's quite monotonal throughout the board. He shows no emotions for anything. The guy's a very interesting bloke, but also quite controversial because he's been like the only electable person in Russia for the past like 30 or 40 years or something ridiculous. So yeah, I thought it'd be an interesting one to put in there. Right, number 3 is Sir Anthony Hopkins. Now Anthony Hopkins, for anyone who doesn't know this, is a actor, and he is a very famous actor. He's been in all kinds of films. I mean, like just I'd be here all day reading out his films. But him and his wife said that there was some issues with him, and she'd noticed that he was, he had some odd behaviors, I guess, because neurologically speaking, he's a bit different than the average neurotypical person. So him and his wife having disagreements, and he got himself, a therapist and different types of things, and eventually was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. And his wife said that's what makes him brilliant, but also makes him quite annoying, which I found quite funny because I also annoy my girlfriend, but also she really enjoys the fact that I can really get into something that I'm really into and know everything about it and get really like obsessed with my my obsessions. But Anthony Hopkins, a very inspirational guy, and it's so nice to see someone of such like, he's really notable and he's really creative and such a successful person. It's nice to see somebody like that on the spectrum so you can look up to that person. Okay, so number 4 is Bill Gates. Now Bill Gates is an interesting guy. He actually founded the company Microsoft back in like the 70s or something ridiculous like that, and currently is still the CEO I think of the Microsoft Corporation. Forgive me if I'm wrong here, but I'm sure he still is involved in Microsoft in terms of like a CEO position. But Bill Gates actually, he's been rumored to rock backwards and forwards, which is called stimming, when he's in meetings, when he's concentrating in a meeting with people in board meetings, which is really interesting. Also, the guy having an obsessive interest with computers and technology and creating different PCI boards and stuff like that for computers. I think that's just super interesting, and his brain works in a very complex way. He's highly intelligent, and he is very odd. He's an odd guy, you know, he likes certain things, and he's very introverted, and I think that goes a long way. So people do speculate and actually say, well, you know, we think that Bill Gates is on the spectrum because of the way he is and the way he acts. But that is just speculation. Again, he hasn't got an official diagnosis as far as I'm aware. He might do now, but at the time of putting this video out, I don't think he has an official diagnosis. But the next one, number 5, is actually a lead on from Bill Gates. So this guy is Steve Jobs, and the late great Steve Jobs, because he's actually dead now, Steve Jobs, bless him. And he is the CEO and founder of Apple, or he was the CEO, but he's the founder of Apple, and Apple are the people who make like iPhones and iPads and MacBooks and these things. So Apple, a super awesome company. I love their technology, and their technology has helped me in ways that are just ridiculous. Like the accessibility for iPads and iPhones is just amazing. Now Steve Jobs is a really interesting guy. He was like super, like he's very straight onto what he wants to do. He's very determined, he knows what he wants to do, and he's going to do it, and nothing can sway from that. It's kind of like he has a direct route, and everyone who's on the spectrum knows how stubborn we can be when we want to get something done and do it. Kind of like with the Apple computers, he didn't want to have people being able to edit them and upgrade them. He wanted to give them a product. Kind of like, and this is the analogy he said that you wouldn't have a Leonardo da Vinci painting a painting and then the audience shout out saying like, hey, can you change this and change that? He said no, everything is a work of art, and he's absolutely right, and he made these beautiful computers in his vision. Now Steve Jobs also did something I find rather strange. He had rituals and routines that he had to do no matter where he was. Now one thing he wanted to do before going on stage was wash his feet. Now he would wash his feet anywhere as long as there was water possible. And in one of the biggest conferences he ever did for Apple, before going on stage, he put his feet into the toilet bowl and washed his feet in the toilet bowl before going on stage, because that's Steve Jobs. Okay, number 6 is one of the most interesting guys I've come across whilst doing my research on this stuff. Now I did a video all about this guy, and this one is Kanye West. Now if you want to check out the video where I talk in depth about Kanye West and his symptoms and issues and all that kind of stuff, I'll leave a link in the card above here in the description below and on the end slate, so you can get a more well-rounded view of what I'm talking about. But very much in a nutshell for this video, because we're going through like 9 here, Kanye West is a very interesting guy. He actually has he's had public meltdowns, he's had private meltdowns, he's a very introverted, very creative, intense guy. He suffers from a condition called synesthesia, which is basically where you see sound as color rather than seeing sound, rather than hearing sound. You see color, like if somebody slams the door, you see a flash of blue light, stuff like that, which is where he gets his like musical artistic flair from, I guess. But synesthesia is comorbid with autism, and usually diagnosed along with an autism spectrum condition. Now after that diagnosis, recently he got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which is actually very common for people to be diagnosed bipolar when they actually should be diagnosed with autism. Now Kanye West being Kanye West, he kind of takes it on the chin and just, you know, gets on with it, and that's him. But very, very fascinating. I don't know if he has an official diagnosis of autism, but I guess that everything else he's been diagnosed with will give him that basic understanding that he's on the autism spectrum, because even having synesthesia means that you're on the spectrum basically. And also I wouldn't be surprised if the guy has ADHD, because the guy is just non-stop, and he is like so work obsessed and so interesting. I saw him on a show called The Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and he is such an interesting guy, and I would never hazard a guess. I'd say, yeah, this guy is definitely on the autism spectrum. Okay, number 7, one of my favorite guys in business. This guy is Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk, if anybody doesn't know, is one of the founders of PayPal, who then went on to found Tesla, the car company, and in recent years, SpaceX, which is one of the most interesting, exciting, and awesome space exploration companies in our history. And SpaceX are just super amazing. They put like a car in space, and they do all kinds of cool stuff, and their suits are like super high tech, and like it's awesome. They're like touchscreen for everything, and even their spaceships are cool. But Elon Musk is a very, very interesting guy. Like, Elon Musk has been rumored to be on the autism spectrum. I saw a interview with him, and he was very monotonal. He talks really odd. His speech patterns are very, very odd indeed, and very common of that on the autism spectrum. But one thing I find most interesting about him is his obsession of his interests. His specific interests came before everything, even sleeping. So when he moved to I think it was Silicon Valley when he wanted to start up a coding company which eventually became PayPal, I guess. He was living in an office. He rented an office before he rented an apartment, and he had a sofa in the office. So he slept on the sofa, so he'd code all night, and then he'd just basically pitch all day. And so this guy never really slept, you know, he'd sleep a couple of hours on the sofa and then get back to work. Like, this guy's a workaholic, and I love that. I love how his brain works because I get it. And the interesting thing was, he had a girlfriend, and his girlfriend was like, well, where's the bed? And he goes, look, there's no bed. You either sleep on the sofa or this relationship is over. And she dumped him and they weren't together. It was really interesting. So his work came first, and that dedication to being very mindset of like, let's get it done. That's super interesting. And Elon Musk, man, the guy's awesome. Okay, number 8, this person does have an official diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome, and it is the awesome Courtney Love. Now, Courtney Love, for people who don't know, was the former wife and now widow of the amazing guitarist and singer in the band Nirvana, Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain sadly committed suicide, and there's some speculation about that. But Courtney Love was also in a band called Hole, which are amazing, and they were featured on a movie called American Pie, which is also another cool movie because my friend is in that scene. His name is Kevin Myers in that, but his actual name is Thomas Nicholas, and yeah, he's a cool guy. I love Tom, he's a good friend of mine. But Courtney Love's band Hole were amazing, but Courtney Love actually is on the autism spectrum, and she was diagnosed in the 90s, I think, and she said it kind of helped her understand herself a little bit more, but it also gave people the opportunity to kind of look to understanding more about her rather than she's just this rebellious, like, teenage, like, rock chick. She was actually this kid who was a bit misunderstood and needed a little bit more help, and I think that was really awesome, and her story is fascinating, so I highly recommend checking it out if you want to read more on Courtney Love. Her story is really interesting. I believe she has like a blog or a book out on it. Don't quote me on that because I'm not entirely sure, but definitely, yeah, definitely check out Courtney Love's diagnosis. It's awesome. Okay, so number 9, this is probably the most interesting one. A guy who is on the autism spectrum. Again, this is speculative. I don't think this guy had a diagnosis because you weren't able to diagnose it when this guy was alive. He's now dead, which was Charles Richter. Now, Charles Richter, people are like, who on earth is Charles Richter? But he invented the Richter scale. So when you have like magnitude earthquakes and you want to measure them, they measure them on the Richter scale. He invented the Richter scale, hence why it's called a Richter scale, because he invented how the seismic changes in the platonic plates actually move. So this guy was super interesting, and he like was just so like focused on science and loved kind of all that stuff. It's just amazing. I love that kind of stuff, and I love that learning of that brain, the autism brain, and yeah, super fascinating and very inspiring. So there you have it, guys. Super awesome. If you think this video was fun and entertaining, please give it a share on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace.